Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Donovan.
And I'm Jordan.
Join us as we go into the pages.
Podcast!
It snowed today.
Yep.
I may have a sweater, but I don't care. I want it to be hot. We had an exciting week. We went to Dragonsdale. It was a tiring time, but because we were running around doing fun stuff for 2 days.
Yeah, this was our very first ever convention, and so it was like a combination of like not knowing what the heck to do, there being like a million things to do, trying to do them all, and like trying to see all of the vendors and all the authors and go to different activities. So
Yeah,
it was a fun couple of days for sure.
Yes. Did you have a favorite part?
I don't know. I really like the Q&A sessions.
Yes.
I think they're fun. There was a spoiler Q&A. And a bunch of people asked some pretty good questions. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
I'm sure Brandon will end up putting it up on his YouTube channel. If he hasn't
I
already.
think he does. Because I remember watching like last year's for one of the Dragonsdale Q&As. They're pretty interesting. We did get a minor spoiler for Sunlit Man, but do you know what it was?
I don't even remember.
Oh, good. I won't say it then. We picked up a couple things. We're both wearing it. I got the Night Radiant, whatever the heck, sweater.
That's not Night Radiant.
What is it?
That's the Elementic symbols.
Oh. I got a Mistborn sweater.
Scadrial. I don't know what they mean, but I'm pretty sure those are Elementic symbols.
I totally thought they were the symbols of the Radiance. And you got the 2023 Dragonsteel jacket.
It doesn't say 2023 anything on it, but it just has their symbol right here.
Yeah, actually, it might not even be like a 2023 thing. Maybe that's just how they would every year.
Their jacket, yeah. I also got some pins. I decided I'm going to start collecting the character pins.
Yes.
Donovan got a bunch, 4.
I got 4 of them, one for each project.
One for each secret project. And so
Yes.
they had a couple there. I got Mervin from Frugal Wizard,
Yeah.
which is really cool. I like how that looks. What was the other one I got? Oh yeah, I also got Tress.
Oh, I thought you only got Mervin, but sweet.
Oh, I got Mervin and Tress.
Nice.
Those are 2 of my favorite.
I got some more shirts, but y'all will see those in future episodes. But yeah, we had there was some fun things going on there. We watched some knights fighting, brawling, whatever the heck.
Yeah, the Salt Lake City Crusaders. They're like a group that they have like authentic armor and swords, and they do fights and duels and
It
stuff.
was pretty interesting. It looks like a painful way to fight even though they've got armor and crap. Like I remember, I don't know if I got the footage of it, but there was like that one guy who was just like got someone else trapped in a corner and was just like just like over and over until the knight was just like, okay, I've had enough, and he gets down on his knees like, get out of here, gosh. I was like, that was fun, because like I think he kind of got in a bad position too, as he was he was being like held by one knight, and then that other guy came in and just slammed on his head, and I was like,
It was interesting.
that looks fun.
I don't know if this is like an official strategy or just kind of what happens, but it seems like they had this in the middle of the convention where all the exhibitors were. There was like this wooden squared out area, and I don't know if it's because maybe this is smaller than they're used to. I don't know, but I thought it was weird how they always ended up in a corner.
Yeah.
Like they would charge each other, and then one of them would always end up getting pushed in a corner, and then they would kind of be there. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. I wonder if that's just it's easier to get leverage when someone's pinned up against the wall, like they can't run away, or if that's like it's like a specific strategy to actually push them into the corner, or people are like running into the corner for some reason, but it wasn't like out in the open.
Yeah, they had some like one-on-one duel type of things. Those were the ones that didn't end up in the corner.
Yeah, those didn't end up in the corner.
But it definitely seemed like their first tactic was to shove until they couldn't go any farther.
Yeah, because
I would be curious.
Because the way to win is to get your opponent on the ground.
Yes.
So I guess that's probably the biggest reason why.
Yeah, I would like to see maybe some other when them do that again somewhere else. I'm just curious to see if they set up that same small ring. It was kind of small, I think, because it was like 6 people in there, something like that, and it was probably like I don't know, measurements, 15 by 15 foot or 20 feet, something like that. It wasn't huge. You can't run, that's for sure.
It was still pretty cool.
It was cool. But yeah, Q&As was awesome. Dragonsteel this year was super exciting for us, even though it was the first one. One of the reasons we got excited to go was because Christopher Paolini was there too. And it was painful. We carried all of his books around all day and got them signed. I was super jazzed about that.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. You got something else signed too.
Yeah, I got Christopher Paolini signed my badge.
And someone.
And I also got Brandon Sanderson to sign my badge.
That's right. So. I saw on sale for eBay for $500. No, I'm kidding.
I'm not selling that thing. But yeah, it was kind of so. Christopher Paolini, we actually stood in the signing line, and Brandon Sanderson after the live recording of Intentionally Blank podcast, they took a break, and he went over to the side of the stage, and I saw a group of people gathering around here, so I meandered over, and then he started signing stuff. So I held out my badge, and he signed it. So I was like, heck yeah. So,
did he even say anything to you? Or you just held it there and you whoop?
I think I held it out, and he was like, okay, and then he signed it. And then,
oh, really? He didn't. He wasn't like. He didn't say anything to you. He just okay.
Yeah. But I was funny. I was literally like in a crowd of people. Like there was three of us like kind of scrunched together, and like I was holding out my badge, someone else was holding out their badge, and then someone was holding out something else. So he kind of just walked up and was like, and then.
There's a little mini lightning signing.
Yeah.
So I thought it was pretty cool. It seems like to me that Brandon and Christopher both are appreciative of their fans, because we actually missed out, which super sucked. Like at the beginning of the day, like we had to like run to the Barnes and Noble booth to get a ticket to get a book signed by Christopher. But that was the first thing we did, and we were too late. Still, they were all given out. But the lady told us, like, oh, maybe come back and maybe he'll sign some more after the tickets. And we did, and he signed a bunch of a bunch more people.
We skidded in right at the end of it. They were like, 5 more people, and we were like the 4th and 5th people that they said 5 more people. So there's other people behind us that weren't able to get it signed. So we were like literally...
Oh, I think you misunderstood that.
Oh, did I misunderstand that?
Because they were like trying to keep it organized so that people wouldn't block aisles and stuff. So like, you 5 come forward... But they called everyone else.
Oh, they did? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, see, this is what I'm saying. Like, it wasn't even just like, 5 more. No, he signed like 20, 30 more books and stuff. Nice. Hey, and then, and like, Brandon had a bunch of signings, but he was on a break, and he still went off to the side and talked to people. He signed more stuff, and he wasn't like a jerk or anything like, oh, you guys suck.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I also got a book signed by Dan Wells. His first novel, I Am Not a Serial Killer.
Oh, was that his first novel?
I'm pretty sure it's the first one he ever had published. I could be wrong.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know much about Dan Wells.
I haven't really, me either, honestly. But yeah, I read it. It was pretty good. I recommend it if you guys like kind of
mystery
thriller, horror with a splash of fantasy.
Yes.
It's pretty good.
Yes. What else was exciting? There was a lot more Magic stuff than I thought, like Magic the Gathering stuff than I thought there would be.
Yeah, we didn't do any of that, but yeah, they did have several drafts.
Yeah. Well, what I was thinking is like they had the drafts and the actual playing the game, but there was like 4 or 5 vendors selling mats to play Magic on.
Oh yeah.
And we found one I couldn't resist. We found one of Milan.
Yes,
with her like showing her bones. I thought it was cool, and it's just like. I swear you go to these things, and apparently it's signing galore for everyone because the artist who made the mat signed my mat. I was like, sweet. Oh, yeah. And you are an official GDS, DDPQR, apostrophe, whatever the heck.
Oh, yeah. So the convention, wouldn't call it a secret quest, but it wasn't like publicized that there was a quest, but you could, since this convention was kind of revolving around the release party for Defiant, which is the final book in the Starlight series. Recommend it if you guys haven't read it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the final one, but yeah, so there was like a quest where you could go around and solve puzzles and talk to vendors and find Delver eyes. Those of you who have read it will know what those are.
Oh, I thought that was just something made up for the quest, but it's not actually in the book. Oh, wow.
And then, to do a bunch of other stuff to become a DDF pilot. And when I completed all the quests, I got a pilot pin. It was awesome. So I'm officially a DDF pilot.
You should write your stuff to show it off.
I know. And then after I went through all of that, I found out you could go to the bookstore afterward. They had a Dragonsteel store, and you could have bought it. But I was like, I earned my mine.
Yeah, exactly. You can be like, I'm thinking of that scene in Harry Potter, the second movie, when like they all find out that Draco Malfoy became secret on the Slytherin team.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, and then his dad bought all the new brooms for his team, but so he's not really, he can fly, but he's not that talented. He just bought his way on the team, but you were like Harry and earned your way on the team.
It was a lot of work. You had to find like 30 different Delver Eyes, and the only way to find them was they were hidden throughout all of the exhibitors' booths. Some had them hidden, and some had them out, but most of them you had to like talk to the exhibitors and ask if they had it, and then a lot of the exhibitors use it as an opportunity to be like, let me tell you about my crap, and then I'll show you, which is fine. I think that's part of the reason why they did it, to encourage you to talk to the exhibitors and make it worth it for the exhibitors to be there. So I was okay doing it. Yeah. I actually talked to quite a few authors, and
seems like that was most of the people with the Delver Eyes, I thought.
Yeah, so there were quite a few with the authors, which was interesting because a couple of the authors I talked to had specifically taken Brandon's BYU class. And had written a book, and Brandon had read it and endorsed it, and so that'd
be pretty amazing, I think.
So it was kind of cool to talk to them about that and get some ideas for the next books that I could potentially read.
Yes, quite right. So I found a few I want to look up once I got time to read another book.
Yeah.
Right now I'm reading 2 books, and that's enough. So yeah, to wrap up, Dragonsteel 2023 was a lot of fun. We're going to be even more excited for next year. At least I will. I'll be more excited. Because I haven't read the Skyward series, or the Starlight, whatever the heck.
Skyward?
That's what I saw. Skyward.
Skyward. I think I said Starlight, but I think it is Skyward.
Yeah, Skyward. I haven't read the Skyward series. It's on my list to read. So a lot of the stuff going on at the event was kind of just like, I don't know what you're talking about. But when they do this next year for Stormlight 5, I will know what's up. And like, we really want to go because all the people who got this year got like special swag and like special editions of the book. Were they special editions? Like
there was a signed and numbered copy, I think.
Okay, but I noticed that at Dragonsteel the book was orange and other colors, but you go to like Barnes & Noble and it's like blue and green. Oh. So I kind of figured Dragon still got like a special edition, and then everyone else is gonna have this blue, green, whatever.
Maybe I didn't really pay attention.
Oh, you're very helpful.
I get all my books on here.
So they all look the same.
All my Kindle. I like my Kindle books.
Oh yes.
I mean, I like the idea of like it's cool that you have all these signed books from Christopher Paolini, and we got these like collector edition books behind me. But I don't know, for the last like 5 years, all my book reading has been on my Kindle, and so now like don't even read physical books. It was like I was reading Dan Wells, I'm Not a Serial Killer, and like reading the actual book was like, I wouldn't say it was weird, but it was kind of like trivial. I was like, I'm turning a page.
That's why I go back and forth. I can't pick one. I like both, but
there's definitely something about actually holding the book and like turning pages and like reading that's really like engaging. But there's just something so convenient about the Kindle and having like, I have like hundreds of books on here that I think is cool.
Yes.
But it'd also be cool to have hundreds of books on a bookshelf. So I don't know. It's kind of like,
yeah, it's harder to have all the bookshelves though, but
yeah, especially because if you want to do both, that doesn't really make sense because then you're just buying the same book twice.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure the authors appreciate, but I mean,
definitely. I've never done that though. I buy it on one or the other. I don't do both.
I did that with Jim Butcher.
Oh. Why? It's because like we grew up. You bought all the Jim Butcher books before we.
I bought them as they came out as we were growing up. Then I got the Kindle and wanted to reread the series, so I bought. So now I have like 1 through whatever, all of them on my Kindle, but I also own like 1 through 8 in like factual physical books.
Nice.
Same thing with actually a lot of books. Aragon, I rebought.
Do you still have your physical copies?
No, I don't know what happened to it.
You didn't read mine, did you?
I don't remember if we shared or I don't know.
I don't either.
I did the same thing with Wheel of Time. I have like the first 8 books. No, I have all the books because
really?
I actually wanted to collect those ones. So I have all of those.
There's some exceptions, I guess.
Yeah. So, but I'm just saying, like, all the physical books I own, I also own on here. But there are some books on here that I don't own.
Yeah. You can. I mean, if you do that, I've noticed that Amazon will be like, oh, you want this book? It's going to be 25% off if you want to get the Kindle version too. I was like, no.
You do that same thing with audiobooks. It's actually really nice.
Oh yeah, I have
So
seen that. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Maybe
I've
it was
been
the
doing it
audio
with the Jim Butcher books, and I bought like the audiobook for like $9, $10, and then the audiobook's normally $30, but they discount it. And it was like only so each of the audiobooks I've bought. I'm currently going through Jim Butcher with my wife, listening to the audiobooks, and each audiobook we've bought has only been like $8, and it's been marked down from like $30.
Wow.
And I said because I already bought the book, so it's totally worth it.
Also, that you can keep it. It's not like you don't have to get it that minute.
No, yeah.
That's handy.
So it's been pretty nice.
Yeah.
Instead of having to spend $30 on each one, it's just like $8, and you're like, deal.
Well, I think 2024 is going to be an exciting time for us on the podcast here. We wanted to go through the first 4 books of Stormlight to get ready for Stormlight 5 next year. And we're going to visit Dragonsteel again. Maybe we'll see some people there. We should wear Into the Pages shirts. Anyway, let's jump into this, eh?
Yeah, Sunlit Man. So last week left us off with Nomad's plan to build a new engine that can operate in a vacuum. And it's the first experiment, which, as we know, explodes, which is part of the process. And everyone's kind of freaking out at first. They're like, we can't use these, they explode. And then Nomad has to explain, it's like, no, this is like the process. Like, we have to test these out, and they're not going to work. But then that's okay, because we're going to figure out how to make them work.
It's funny how they had to have that explained to them, because I kind of feel like with them learning how to repair the ships, that they would have some idea of this, like, oh, it might not work. We'd have to kind of finagle it, see what works, see what doesn't work, type of.
I think the engineers have that ability, because there are engineers, and the main people that were concerned were the greater good ladies that maybe were more, didn't have much to do with engineering. It seems like everyone does have a job on here, I'm sure, so they did something productive, but not specifically engineering, because there is one point where Nomad kind of turns it over to the engineers to improve on his design, and when they do another tests, they come up with like 3 different iterations. And so it seems like they definitely, at least, I don't know if that's all purely because they're copying Nomad and his method, or if they already kind of have the idea of like, yeah, we got to test it, and we only have a few hours, because I mean, they're like racing against the sun toward a dead end, and so there definitely is a life or death deadline.
Yeah.
And so there's definitely a lot of pressure, definitely a lot of things to go on. But yeah, so there's that kind of that aspect of it, and then there's another aspect where Nomad's still trying to figure out how the Sun Hearts work. I mean, we get some interesting insights into investiture, but I think we'll get into that a little bit later. I think maybe in the next chapter. I guess the important parts in chapter, what chapter is this? 23. So right after this experiment, he's kind of also talking about like, we need to dump this part of the city. We need just essential buildings only that can fit the people, because we need to make this as light as possible. Yeah. So we can make it over the mountains. And it is kind of a hard thing to swallow, because this is like their homes and their whatever they're going to have to ditch. But at the same time, they're also like super willing to do it. They're like, yeah, 15 people that we can set to doing this right now. And they like immediately start doing it. And later on, I think in the next couple chapters, Nomad's like surprised at how quickly they do it.
Yes. So you got to learn how to be quick when there's a murderous son after you.
Yeah. So they're very efficient. And it seems like it's very easy to convince people that we're doing this because we want to survive. And so no one's like, I think if in any other planet, if you were to say we need to evacuate, there would be people that would be like, no, I've lived here, I'll die here. But it seems like everyone here is like, yeah, heck yeah, like I want to survive. Yeah. Like get rid of this. Like, because it's their entire house. Like they're just taking like maybe like a backpack worth of stuff.
Yeah, probably.
And they're just destroying the rest, and they do it quickly. And so it seems like they're definitely used to, I don't know if I would say they're used to loss, but there's definitely their need to survive, and what they're willing to do to survive seems to be higher than what we've seen in other places.
Yeah, definitely.
Other planets.
It really changes you when the sun literally provides life for you, but even quicker will take it away. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So another thing he's surprised about is after he tells them this bad news, they also like express appreciation. They're like, thank you, like you're really helping us. And he's like, wow, Definitely wasn't expecting that.
Yeah,
And then
because
he's
honestly, I feel like maybe I'm getting a little mixed. That my timeline a little mixed up, but it seems like if he wasn't around, they'd all be dead or captured by now.
Yeah, for sure the greater good would have been like in that
Yeah.
raid.
Uh-huh.
So, but then again, they probably wouldn't have been there if Nomad hadn't told them to go there. So who knows?
There's a lot of speculation, I guess, with that thought.
And then we get Nomad has a realization, because if you remember in the prior chapters, he's doing experiments on Elegy, where he's trying to draw out the power or something from her sun heart that made her into a Chard, into a
I think he
used up sun heart.
I mean, it's like I think it. Her. She didn't have a sun heart, right? Because that's not made until you're left out to the sun. But she was stabbed by the Cinder King's thing and has a cinder heart. So he's like,
yeah, we learned that in the next chapter. That's kind of the difference. They call cinder hearts.
Oh, okay.
Sun hearts, but yeah. So then he finds out one thing, because I think he talks to Contemplation, and she basically explains sun heart, like basically saying that sun hearts were considered alive, and he's like, oh well, yeah. So investiture. Let's see, what does he say? Basically, that investiture can't be transferred to something that's dead, and if it's considered dead. So he was trying to. So since the sun hearts were considered living things, once they were charged, they then became dead. Once they were used up, they then became dead things, which is why he wasn't able to transfer the investiture, because it was like essentially trying to transfer it into a corpse.
Yeah.
Because I kind of thought about that a little bit, because wondering like, what was the difference between gemstones? Because gemstones aren't living, but they can hold investiture, and so it seems like it's just how it's thought of and how it's considered, because gemstones aren't really considered alive or dead. They're just vessels, I guess, is maybe why. And then the sun hearts are people, like they're people's souls. It's a soul. It's not just a gemstone. So that's why it wasn't working. And so he's like, aha.
Yes.
And so that's kind of how chapter 23 ends, and he's like, he needed to try again with Elegy. Yeah, so he gets the sun. So he grabs the sun heart from Rebecca's hover cycle with her permission, and we find out that it has about 200 BEUs in that sun heart, which is a decent amount, especially considering that even on in highly invested areas or planets, people usually can have a max of like 3 BEUs. But since this has 200, I guess it's just, we've already talked about this over and over and over, but this is just confirmation from another angle that the sun is doing something to the souls, like supercharging it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what auxiliary.
I would love to see. I mean, if they were able to find a way to survive below the surface and they don't need beacon anymore, I would love to see like Nomad absorb those sun hearts and get the tens of thousands of BEUs that those might be worth.
I hope that's how he destroys Union.
That'd be awesome. He just some
Just
sort
like
of power.
sucks out all the sunlight, and this Union just falls down. And then he's like, see ya. And then he skips. And then Nomad, he wants to experiment. He's not really explaining to Rebecca what's going on. But he asks, what's the difference between the sun hearts that make the Chard and those that power the ships? And she's like, we don't really know. Like, we know that the Cinder King has access to these. They call them cinder hearts. They glow with a harsher light and consume anyone who touches them. But they don't really know how he makes them, where he gets them, how they work, other than if you get stabbed by it or touch it, it turns you into a Chard. And so,
That's it.
yeah. And for some reason, it makes them subservient to the Cinder King.
Yes.
Which we get a little more insight to in just a minute. Because auxiliary Ian kind of mentions, and he says... He said there's some connection going on there, talking about the relationship between the Chard and the Cinder King. But he says they seem to react to his mental commands. Have you noticed?
Yeah, he doesn't. I didn't notice, but
neither did Nomad. He was like, he didn't notice, but he trusted Auxiliary. So I don't think anyone noticed except for Auxiliary.
The one who is blind and deaf notices more. I mean, he obviously uses Nomad senses, but But yeah, they just jump into it.
There was one thing mentioned in here that I don't really remember what it means, but he's holding up the sun heart made from the being roasted in the sun, he compares it to what Elegy's chest cinder heart looks like, and they're different colors. And he says, he asks auxiliary, "Is that anti-investiture?" And he says, "Doesn't feel like it, but I'm not the best at spotting that." I was trying to remember what the heck anti-investiture is.
I don't remember running onto it before.
I thought maybe it had something to do with, I know the fused in Stormlight are able to
Like they use
suck Stormlight out of Night Radiance. They have that Fabrial that they use that just like sucks everything out when Kaladin almost dies in that burning building.
Right.
And also the holy, what are the flying fused called? Heavenly ones or something like that. I don't know. They have the lances that if they stab you with it sucks out your Stormlight. And so I wonder, is that anti thing? And there's also that thing, if you remember, there was a gemstone that Ellikar's dad had. What the crap is Ellikar's dad's name?
Like, so there's Dalinar, and it was something with a G. Gavilar?
Gavilar. Sounds right. So King Gavilar had a gemstone that I think was this anti-investiture.
Oh.
But I could be wrong about that, because I don't remember if they said it was anti-investiture or if it was the Stormlight equivalent of what the Fused uses, like Odium's power and not Honor's power. I don't really remember.
I don't know. This is why I am looking forward to going through Stormlight again. I need to go back through it and study it.
Something to keep in mind. What the crap is anti-investiture? I should have asked that during the Q&A. What's anti-investiture?
Yeah, there you go.
Probably just would have said Raffo.
Right.
I was so confused at first. Sorry, breaking it back into Stormlight. For some reason, like, I don't know what it is, but like when there's like speakers and a lot of noise, sometimes I have a hard time like picking out what people are actually saying over the microphone.
Okay. But
Like when people would ask questions, I thought he was saying that's a raffle. Like I thought he was entering them into a raffle because he didn't answer the question.
He said Raffo.
But he was saying Raffo,
which is an acronym I think he made up. I don't know if he made it up or...
I think he did. I remember him saying it, but yeah, Raffo, read and find out.
Yeah. I literally only knew that because there was somewhere at Dragonsteel, they had a sign that said Raffo, read and find out. Somewhere. And then he kept saying, I was like, oh.
Cool. So anyway, so maybe anti-investiture is Raffo. We explained, or maybe it was explained and we just aren't remembering. I don't know.
I do like how he says that, though, because, like, he doesn't want to give away what's going to be happening in the Cosmere and stuff. I'm like, yes, let's read it. Give us the books now.
Yeah, because basically the reason he's asking about anti-investiture is the Cinder Heart, right?
Yeah,
Cinder Heart has a darker color, and then he says it seems like it's corrupted, like it has some kind of, like, membrane or something over it. And it's like, is that anti-investiture? Is it just like something else? Who knows? But he's going to experiment on it, and it's going to be quite the experience.
Yes.
But basically, he touches the sun. He touches the sun heart from Rebecca's hover cycle to the cinder heart and Elegy, and then speaks the prayer. He's like, bold one on the threshold of death, give the sun heart your dying heat, that it may bless those who still live. And then immediately starts making Elegy scream. And so Rebecca's like, how dare you?
Yeah.
And she like starts to try to, I thought this part was funny, but she's like throwing all her weight at him. She's like pulling on him and jumping on him, and he's like not even budging.
Yeah, I like that part too. He's invested enough right now that he's got strength enough to like not ignore her. Strong.
And so he's just like draining it. So he's like doing something, and then he watches as the darkness on Elegy's cinder heart starts to drain away. And then it kind of gives him hope. He's like, hopefully that will work on me. Like it'll take away this scar that he has from holding the Dawn Shard.
Yeah.
Which is making it so he's not able to fight off.
He can't fight or even defend himself.
And then there's one thing that finally it gets him to budge is Rebecca grabs onto his arm and pretty much dead weights him. Just so what does he say? Is her entire 5-foot tall frame dragging down on his muscles. So he's like holding the thing like this, and so she just grabs on him. And so just like imagine that, like you're holding your arm out, and this 5-foot woman just like puts all her weight on you. And it says to him, it like makes him budge. Me, I'd be like,
you wouldn't even like that person would drop so hard that they'd have a sore tailbone or something because they would have zero support.
Yes.
I like things like that in books. It's just like it satisfies my man need for masculinity or I don't know, cool stuff. my boyhoodness needing cool stuff. We're like, that's awesome. He's so strong. She can't even like pull him down. Like,
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
and something interesting happens here. So Elegy did start screaming, and then after that, she speaks words.
Yes. First, they have a little argument, which I think is important.
Oh yes.
Because he's like, I told you I wasn't trying to hurt her, and she's like, intend or not, like that's what you did, you freaking idiot. She's like, I won't stand for this. And then in the middle of I think that the reason I think it's important is I notice this happens a lot where people don't fully explain what they're doing, and it causes issues. And I understand like why they don't explain what they're doing, like. And Nomad explains this later on, like you're saying, Elegy starts to talk, like she's like, "Who are you? Let me go. Like, what's going on?"
Yeah.
Which apparently it's like Chard they don't speak, they don't talk at all, and so
This is the first time we've ever heard a Chard speak.
And so Rebecca's like, "Wow, like why didn't you tell me you were trying to cure her? Like tell me that this is probably going to cure her." And then, which I agree, I'm like, yeah, then she wouldn't.
But did he know? Did he know it would cure her?
I don't think he knew.
So
and
I think
he even says, he's like, I didn't want to get your hopes up. Like I didn't know what the result was going to be.
Yeah. He gave a vague answer, which was like true, but he could have been like, I'm going to experiment to see if I can do this or that. But instead he just says, I'm learning. So it's like, okay, what the heck does that mean?
And it even says right here, it's like Rebecca says, you were trying to cure her? Why didn't you say that? And then in his mind, Nomad's like, cure her? Oh, right. Well, that was a side effect. Then he plays it off. He's like, I didn't know if it would work. I don't want to get your hopes up. So he wasn't trying to cure her. So of course he didn't know if that was going to happen. He's basically seeing if he can make it work on him. He wants to draw away his thing, and then
his torment. Yeah.
And then Rebecca gets all thankful, and she's all like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And then we get some interesting insight in the Chard, which apparently, so Elegy's when she got stabbed by the Sunheart, it burned away like her entire identity. So it is her, but at the same time, it's not her because she doesn't have any memories of who she is, where she came from, who these people are.
She's even like asking like, what happened to the voice?
Yeah, because she's like, tell me who you are and why am I in these chains? What happened to the voice? And then he's like, the voice? And apparently she hears a voice that gives commands and makes everything clear, and like, I don't know, it kind of takes her over. I kind of pictured that what Ruin was doing with Ruin was doing in Scadrial with the Inquisitors, where he would like, if you did hemorrhagy enough, then he could like talk to you.
All right.
Like Vin got like those visions, and he could directly control the Koloss and the I just said it, Inquisitors, because they had so much hemorrhagic spikes in them. I kind of picture something similar, like it's like this voice they hear that they like listen to and tells them what to do. I don't know if that's what it is. I don't know.
Yeah, so we did learn right there that whatever the Cinder King does by stabbing him and putting these Cinder Hearts in there, he completely wipes them out, and he gains like mental control over them.
And also, he kind of mentions that their violent tendencies doesn't come from the commands of the Cinder King.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks that they have so much investiture given so much at once, and we kind of know this from Stormlight. Like when you have so much investiture in you, it like compels you to act, to turn the potential energy into kinetic energy, to like move, run, act, fight. And so he thinks that's why they're so aggressive and why they're like, but the Cinder King is able to use the voice, whatever that is, if it's his voice or something else.
That's what I thought it was his voice.
To direct that. Be like, go over there, like, get them. And then they just go like, just go crazy.
Probably exactly like that.
Yeah. And then he tries something that's stupid but desperate and everything at once. He shaves off a piece of, apparently these sun hearts aren't like rocks, they're like more like resin.
Yeah, I kind of picture them to be more of a solid object, but then he talks about this where he
scrapes a piece off of it.
Yeah.
And stabs himself with it.
I always pictured it more as like a machine part, but maybe it's a little more fleshy, I guess. That'd be gross to hold.
Yeah, but he stabs it in his arm, and he starts to make it work, but he wasn't feeling anything. Nothing's working, and all of a sudden hears a.
Yeah.
And he looks over. Freaking Rebecca is freeing Elegy.
That frustrated me so much. I was like, what the heck, you idiot woman? Like, she seems so naive and just blind at this point with like, she even says like she sounds like my sister, but nothing else is right. But she's still like, oh, let's let her out. She tried to kill us all, but whatever. Freaking.
Yes. And unfortunately, he doesn't notice until the very last manacle is taken off, and then the chapter 24 ends with Elegy met his eyes, then leaped at him with a howl of determined anger.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And so they have this epic fight where every time Nomad gets in these situations, I'm always like, how's this going to end up? Because he can't fight back. He can't do anything. But he's able to get her and like wrestle her a little bit. Like he starts getting her in like kind of like a submission hold.
Yeah.
And she's like beating the crap out of him.
Like she immediately goes for his throat, and he's able to kind of.
Yeah, I think there's one point where is it? I think I was like grab. I don't know exactly where it is, but I think there's one point where she grabs his head and is like bang, 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 he's like banging it on the.
I remember that too. Yeah.
Oh, right here. Her movements are blurred. She grabbed the sides of his head and slammed his skull against the steel floor, making him see stars. And of course that takes healing, and so it's, I don't know, it's doing all these things, and they're fighting, they're going crazy, he's trying to wrestle her, and then going all over the place, and then he's kind of able to hold her down, but then she escapes, and it's like, because he tries to fight, and then of course he seizes up because of the scar.
Friggin' torment.
The torment.
But he is pretty quickly able to gain control, and he uses Ox to subdue her again.
Yeah.
And this is what we learn.
He's able to kind of win or subdue her because he gets auxiliary around her wrist or leg, I think, I don't remember which, and forms a handcuff and changes her to the wall, which kind of calms her down. Like she kind of just sits there and starts looking, but she looks more like a feral. She's described as like a feral beast, like waiting to be let out of the cage again. Like she's not calm, but she knows that she can't do anything. She kind of just sits there.
Yeah, but it definitely was if he had taken those off, and because she had calmed down, she would immediately jump back into the craziness. And this is where we learn that the people, the Charred, are now just kind of naturally like they want to fight. They got all this power stored up, but they don't want to put it into something less violent. They just want to. They're pretty much like, I don't know, I kind of view them as like a sort of zombie. Like they don't have this bottomless pit of hunger or whatever for human flesh and stuff. They just simply want to fight. And that's all they can think about. That's all they care about. Mm-hmm. And it literally like, it's almost like a disease too. Like it's like a crazy fever that just makes you go nuts and you just want to kill everything.
Yeah. And, Rebecca then kind of gets, I don't know if she gets mad or if she just gets more pleading and desperate. She tells Nomad, she's like, you didn't finish curing her, do what you did before. And he's like, it's not going to work. And if I do it, it might hurt her or kill her. It's like, I've done everything I can. He's like, everything that you see is what's left of your sister. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he explicitly tells her this, but I think he just thinks this later on, is that it's not going to be a matter of recovering old memories. It's going to be a matter of building new ones. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I don't know if he's going to help them to get to this conclusion on their own of like the old Elegy's gone.
Yep.
And yes, it's your sister, but kind of only in form only.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not going to have her personality. It's not going to be the same thing. And you can build new memories, but it's not going to be as meaningful because those memories, are built from childhood and it's just not going to be the same.
Yeah.
Which is going to be, I think it's going to be hard to accept. And I think Rebecca's even a little bit of shock because Nomad has to tell her to leave and go get Zeal. Because Zeal has the remote control that will freeze. Because apparently Elegy still has the bracers on.
Yeah.
And so they go get Zeal. But before that happens, I think there's a interesting conversation between Elegy and Nomad. Yeah, but basically, it's just a quick back and forth of Elegy being like, was that really my sister? Like, I don't know what's going on. And then she's like, I want to attack you. And then he's like, well, the voice isn't controlling you. And then she's like, maybe you want to control me. And he's like, well, what's the difference? You let the voice control you. What if I control you? So it's kind of like this back and forth. And then she basically is like, I can't help it. Like, I need to move. I need to act. I need to attack. And then she's like, you don't understand. He's like, I can't explain it. And then he pretty much explains it, like, because he's felt the same thing. And where he says, your entire body feels alert, tense, on the edge of panic. Something inside of you rages like a storm, pushing you into motion, to action. Sitting still is agony. You need to move, to fight, to be running or struggling in some way. I mean, that sounds intense. Like,
Yeah.
to have all that power would be cool, but like to have that feeling accompany it would be, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it was that intense. I wonder if he's like being dramatic with it, because whenever like the knights are fighting in Stormlight, they describe it as like they need to move, but not like agony to sit still.
Yeah. That's how I feel a lot about it at work. I just don't have a bunch of investors coursing through me, making it worse.
So I wonder if it has to do with like the level of investiture that you draw in. Maybe like if you draw in like so much like the Dawn Shard level or like a Shard level, that's where doing nothing is agony. Or, I don't know. I don't know. That's kind of curious.
I would imagine that being agony for sure.
And then Elegy's pretty much like, oh, so you feel the same thing? Like, let me go and let's just fight. Let's just like go at it.
Yeah.
And
for her, it seems like it's like this is such an obvious choice. Why aren't we doing it? Like, you know, I always felt like she's just lost all sort of thought. Like it's all about the fight and that's it.
I thought this part was funny.
I did too.
And then what is it? Let's see. So she's like, let me free. And then he says, will you attack me again? And she's like, probably. But you feel it too. You described it. We could fight. You and I struggle, move, be alive. And he's like, not interested, thanks. And I like this little quip from Auxiliary. He's like, she's charming.
Yeah.
So it doesn't turn into a romance where she's like, we can do this. And like,
yeah,
that's what I
that's almost what it's like. Yeah.
I don't think that's what she was saying, but that's kind of how Auxiliary made it seem.
There was another part of this. What Auxiliary doesn't say this, but Nomad says it. And let's see. Oh, Zeal sees Nomad dismiss Auxiliary's like physical form and it goes into the mist. It's like, how are you able to control a shade? And like he's different from your shades. He doesn't attack with glowing eyes or a deadly touch. He uses sarcasm. He uses sarcasm instead, and it's far more painful. And I just like his rebuttal is like, excuse me, except for that's not his voice, but that's how I imagine it. The hero interjects with a voice not the least bit sarcastic. I just state facts. These books make me want dang sidekick so bad.
Right, like a sprint. just talking crap and like
yeah, seriously,
being all sarcastic.
I think when we were growing up, we always wanted like an animal companion because like you watch the old Disney movies. I'm thinking like Pocahontas. Pocahontas had what was the bird's name? Flick.
I don't even remember, but it was the bird and the raccoon.
Yeah, the bird and the raccoon. But like it was always just funny because Miko was just this silly raccoon who just wants to eat everything, and I think that they based it on a real raccoon. But like it always seemed like funny, like it'd be funny to have like an animal companion who would run around with us and do crap and be silly and cool and blah blah blah. But now it's evolved into we want our own sprint.
Yes, 100%. I wonder what sprint I would like. Like it'd be really cool to be Windrunner and fly, but I also really like the idea of being a
Edge dancer.
Edge dancer.
Oh, you really were thinking that?
Yeah.
I just threw that out there. Because you just want to be slick and slide everywhere.
Yeah, I think that'd be sweet to like be slick and be able to heal. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd also
everyone could
be
heal,
like
right?
to be. I don't know what the Earth ones are called, but that would be cool too.
Oh, what were they called?
I don't remember.
I swear we need to keep like notes or something, and just so we can remember all the things. But I don't know what to make notes of, and we're always like,
I know. It's like, what are you gonna? What do I need to remember?
we need like. I think if I knew how to do this crap without like taking 290 hours, I would love to have like some sort of like database of all the things Cosmere. And we can just be like do a little search. We could use Google probably.
Oh, and also we find out Nomad's gonna upgrade their ships in an even different way with the engines. He made up guns that will be mounted directly to the ships and powered by the Sun Hearts.
Oh, we get that here?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there it is. I was excited to hear that. I don't know how it's going to go down, but it's going to be good.
Yeah, it's pretty much phase 2 of the plan because Nomad's like, even if we make it over the mountains, that's great. We've survived that part. But as soon as we go down, the Sun King's still going to be there, and he's still going to be trying to kill us, or the Cinder King or the Sun King. I got that. I guess that's from Horizon.
I was thinking Sun King too. Oh, that's what it's from.
Yeah, Horizon Zero Dawn.
Oh my gosh, we had to talk about that for a second. Brandon did his 5 favorite things with Christopher Paolini, and he listed Horizon Zero Dawn as like one of his top. I don't remember what it was. It was like his second or third.
It was in his top 5.
It was in his top 5, but it was his top 5 for really good world building. And I was like, oh, I like that game, so I love that he said it.
Yes.
It kind of was just like one of those things. We're like, I've played the game, you've played the game, we know it's a fun game, and we know it's a good game. But then it's like we get that validation from someone who like is a world builder, storyteller professionally, and we're like, oh yes, I knew it.
But yeah, so that's like the next step. Like we need to be able to fight.
Yes.
So he's like, first let's survive the mountains, and then we'll talk about these cannons or these whatever guns they are.
Yes. And at the end here, we get another little part that just I want to sprint buddy, but I think Zeal says everyone's ready, and then Nomad's like, your people move quickly, or he's already your people move quickly. As soon as he said it, he knew he opened himself for. He doesn't even finish his thought before Auxiliary steps in. Gosh, you think so? The knight gives a pointed roll of eyes, the ones he'd totally have if Nomad hadn't killed him. They move fast, really? The people who spend their lives out racing the sun, always one step from being vaporized in a wave of burning light? They move fast? It's like, you can't be stupid. You're going to get ridiculed.
And then apparently, I don't know if we mentioned this earlier, but Nomad was talking about how he's sarcastic, and Auxiliary was like, because then he says like, you really don't think that's sarcasm? He's like, I'm just being extra clear.
Yes, seriously. And that feels like sarcasm too. This almost ends like the last chapter too. Like the last chapter is like, let's go, we're gonna go explode something. But now he says, I'm gonna go check on the engineers and watch their new versions explode.
Yeah. And that gets takes us to the end of chapter 25. Yes. So 26. So this is what I mentioned earlier in the episode. That Nomad said it turns out that the Beacon's little engineering team was packed with overachievers. They had made 1 new prototype, but 3. And only 2 of them exploded, and 1 of them worked, which was good.
Yeah, he even kind of thinks like if that third one had to explode, they'd be up a creek of shiz.
Yes. And Nomad is kind of put in an awkward situation because he doesn't want to be a hero. He doesn't want these people to look up to them. But after they have this one engine succeed, everyone's like, "Oh wow, yeah, we're saved. This is gonna work. Oh yeah, goodness, thank goodness."
Yeah.
And then the way he describes it, I thought was kind of funny. The engineers gather around him, and they looked up to him like little children anticipating praise. Storms. He always felt awkward in this sort of situation. But he's like, "Excellent job. You just saved the city." I don't know if that's how he said it.
That's kind of how it sounds.
I read it.
Good job. You guys are so smart.
And there's still some refinements that need to be made because the one that worked was like went just like super high, like really fast, and like it went faster. Like we need to modify it so it doesn't quite go that fast.
I don't even think one going that fast would be able to get the city.
And we also get part of the plan of, I guess there's different phases. There's phase 1, get over the mountains. Phase 2, be able to fight. So phase 1.5 is how are we going to survive in the vacuum?
Yes.
And Nomad's like, I don't need to breathe. And they're like, you don't need to breathe? And he's like, I shouldn't have said that. I don't know if that's what he says.
Yeah.
But now they're even more like, you are sunlit.
It kind of feels that way. I mean, my mind goes right to Hagrid in the first Harry Potter movie.
Yeah,
I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that. But he's a different. Like he didn't want to say that because he didn't want them to be like, oh my gosh, you are a sunlit man. Oh.
But this reminded me of. So I was like, that's pretty impressive. Like investiture can help you survive in a vacuum. Like, so it's going to keep your blood from freezing, your eyes from exploding, or whatever the heck happens, and you're not going to have to breathe. Like, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So then I thought of a joke. Not really a joke, but kind of making fun of Star Wars.
Okay, go for it.
We're big, huge Star Wars fans, but the sequels leave much to be wanted. But there's one, I don't even care. There's one part where Leia is in space, and because she got exploded by her son, and she's floating through space, and she opens her eyes and like floats. I was like, she had investiture. Finally explained how she survived.
It wasn't the Force at all.
It's how she survived an explosion, being sucked into space and like being there for like several minutes and then surviving. It's because she had Stormlight. I thought that was very funny.
You're right. That was not a joke. I didn't think about him being like in a space type of thing. I mean, they did say vacuum, but I was just thinking like that the air was just too thin or something, so he wouldn't be able to breathe. But if they are in a vacuum, yeah, the investor would have to keep him alive from being exploded.
It seems like he's gonna burn through it. I mean, like
think.
healing, like I remember when he absorbed that sun heart earlier in the book, he got a little over 10%, I think, of skip capacity.
Yeah, just barely.
And he's been in like a few fights since then, and just the healing from that, given they've been life-ending injuries, that's used 2% of his investiture because now he's like a little below or at 8%, I think, after his fight with Elegy.
Yeah, I think that's what it was at.
And so going up there and like, it's not like you're gonna slow heal, like you're gonna have to be constantly and quickly healing. Like I think it's gonna take like a huge chunk of his investiture to survive that.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Like a huge chunk, because he's not going to be breathing. His blood's going to whatever.
Because literally,
does his blood boil or freeze? I don't know what the heck happens in a vacuum.
I don't know either. But I mean, if he's going in a complete space vacuum, then literally you're in an environment where it's impossible to survive. So the investiture would not just have to be keeping his lungs going; have to keep everything going. That's pretty insane. You think that 10% will be gone so quick?
I'm pretty sure it's going to drain him like fast. Like he's going to be like, dang it. And
then I'm just going to die. They're gonna
But maybe it won't come to that based on what happens later in the chapter, but we'll see.
Well, maybe this kind of answers it. Like he's having a conversation with Rebecca, and he's worried about heat, like just getting rid of heat. He wants to install some heat sinks, and she's like surprised you're like, oh, you need to worry about heat. Anyway, he says, "Trust me, if we enter a true vacuum, which we might not actually do." So maybe that kind of answers. Maybe they don't go into a true vacuum. It's just like
they're just like in the upper atmosphere.
Yeah, they're just close to it.
Okay, that makes more sense. But still, yes. And they talk about like they want to do a test run before they outfit the whole ship. So like, even though they're like really up against the line here, they're still being thorough, which I think is good because I like when authors don't just make something work. Like Brandon could have easily been like, turns out Nomad's a rocket scientist and he made a perfect thing and it worked perfectly and now it's all installed,
which he's pretty dang close still, but
but still the first thing exploded, then the next two exploded. There's one that seemed to work, but they still want to test it, and there's all these issues, and they're gonna do a test run, and so there's still like a process. It's still a really impressive process, and I think it shows that how smart the engineers are, how smart Nomad is, and definitely a heavy dose of luck. But at least in my opinion, maybe they're smarter than I think they are. But anyway, they want to do a test run, and he's gonna use Elegy's old ship because she had it reinforced because one of her plans to survive not being under the Cinder King's thumb was to ride behind the sun where there's like all these storms and craziness. She wanted to like go in that, but it turned out to be impossible. But and we get a nice little failure little quote. You know how they have like all these quotes, like it doesn't matter how many times you fail, it matters how many times you get up again.
Yeah, we
get one of those quotes from Nomad. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
And then he says, "Failed ideas lead to successful ones. Contemplation. They're the only things that does." So I was like, little quote. Put it on your wall.
Yes, why not?
And then we get a little history from Roshar of how the Elegy used to be viewed by who we now know to be Sigzil's people. Because on Sigzil's planet, Nomad's planet Roshar, Elegy are taller than like everyone there because they're giants. We get this little story of, I guess, what you can consider the first invasion. I don't remember where Nomad's from on Roshar, Sigzil's from. So if we're correct, and this is Sigzil, which we don't know yet. You do. I don't know yet.
You were the one who got spoiled in the beginning.
Anyway, that's our guess.
Was it contemplation?
And he's talking to Contemplation,
Okay.
and he's like telling this big story. I don't know if we really want to go into it, but it's basically talking about how the Elegy chilled out and how they got light eyes, and how they were these war people. And then after they made it to the sun, they got like this thing happened to them, and then they chilled out.
Oh, the story you're talking about.
Yeah, so like this big story. Now we get to the good part. This is near the end of the chapter. But after telling the story and talking to Contemplation kind of like about the point of stories, because she's kind of like, oh, that's a nice story. Like, but what's the point of it? He's like, it's just a story. And she's like, oh, all our stories have points. And he's like, that's how my master is. He wants all his stories to have like a moral to it or like a reason to tell it. But he's like, I like stories that are just stories. And I was like, very good. But then right next to him, a kid's like, look, Mommy, a new star. And then they're all like, yeah, kids, shut up.
Yeah. And I did think this part was a little interesting. Just thinking, because like they ask her like, well, how do you know? Like, well, we study the stars in school. I'm like, oh, they have school. That's they find time to do school in a world where they have to run from the sun, and like their entire lives is just trying to keep ahead.
You won't get this reference, but maybe other people will. But I imagine their school are like the school in the Skyward series.
You're right, I don't get it.
Their school is 100% teaching you to do something that will benefit society.
Okay,
so
that would make sense because
like in the Skyward series, like you're on a chosen path. Like you're going to be an engineer, you're going to be a farmer, you're going to be a pilot, you're going to be a soldier.
Okay,
and then you just learn how to do that. Like there's not really like they don't really teach literature or like
mathematics. Well, they might
probably teach stuff. They like
probably
that,
do. Yeah,
there's not like alternative dance.
Yeah,
like,
definitely that.
Yeah, stuff like that.
So
I imagine it's similar. I imagine the school's similar here. Like they teach you like we study stars because that's how you know where you are. Like like the corridors where that's safe to travel. There's no landmarks. They use the stars, and so they're going to teach their kids that. So it seems like they teach. I would imagine they teach stuff like that, and it's not like I learned how to color with a red crayon, but like I learned what stars are in this area.
Yeah, they probably don't have kindergarten songs about the color purple, like or whatever.
I would imagine not. And this new star, as it turns out, is actually a battleship.
Yeah, I love how
a massive. It's just like because Contemplation's like, oh well, look at that! It is a new star, a good sign. Maybe Aiden Halcyon blesses our journey. And then
I love how Nomad reacts that. Yeah, no.
Yeah, no. That's not a new star or an asteroid. That's a massive warship in low orbit around the planet. They're called the Night Brigade.
Yep.
Distant cousins of yours, actually. They're here to kill me. So I was like, oh, cool. So these are Threnodites, I guess, are chasing him.
Yeah.
They're distant cousins.
Well, what are distant cousins? Does that mean he says they're distant cousins to the people on this planet because they're Threnodites and these people are from Threnody or whatever the heck?
That's how I chose to interpret it.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
But who knows? And we get a piece of art where there's the kid pointing out the warship / star.
We get to see is this olive beacon? They're just not put together.
Yeah, that's kind of what it looks like, but who knows?
Yeah. So guess what, everyone? We're doing it to you again, leaving on a cliffhanger.
That's how it's going to be. We're according to my Kindle here, we're 55% into the book. And so
that's what I'm getting.
Seems like we're getting up to the climax.
And I mean this feels like a climax. Like we've been reading half the book now, and Nomad's always like, "Gotta get away. I gotta find a way out of this place. I gotta get away from the Night Brigade. The Night Brigade's coming. I gotta run from the Night Brigade. Blah, 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 the Night Brigade, everything." And now here they are.
Yeah, I remember we've been like, they're really that fast at finding him, but he's been here like 4 days,
something like that,
and they're already here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't take long to find him, especially considering that he's like randomly, he doesn't even know where he's going. He's just like jumping and skipping, and he's like, where the crap am I? So
yeah,
he must leave some sort of trail, or maybe they're tracking him because of the Dawn shard that he used to hold. I don't know.
Oh, that's not why they were. But
anyway.
This reminds me of a part that I want to leave on. We went to a panel at Dragonsteel where they kind of talked about the secret projects and their connections to the rest of the Cosmere, and I thought it was funny because they separated it into the books. So they started with Trest, then Frugal Wizard, then they ended on Sunlit Man. And what I thought was funny is we decided to jump out to leave before they got into Sunlit so that we wouldn't get any spoilers. And I just thought it was funny how They're like, "Hey, Sunlit Man," and they're like, not only I thought me and you would just be standing up, but like half the people, okay, maybe not half, but like a good chunk,
like
20,
20,
30 people got up and left. So I'm like, peace. I don't want spoilers either. I was like, oh, good. We're not the only ones who haven't read Sunlit Man yet.
Yes. That was kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, we're getting into it. Next week we'll be getting into it, I should say. So yeah, you guys have to stay tuned. If you guys want Dragons to, you should leave a comment or tell us how it went for you. Did you have something favorite? Something you liked? A favorite part? Did you like standing in line for 2 hours?
Yep. Amen.
We're so good at these outros. We'll see y'all next episode.
See ya. It's over.